Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's licensing panel. My name is Councillor David Curtis. I'm chairing this morning's meeting. On my right is Olivia Quinn from Democratic Services supporting us, and I'd like to ask the rest of the panel and other officers to introduce themselves. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Councillor Roger Harding.
I'm Councillor Ian Shenton.
I'm Nisha Lowry from Legal Services.
Good morning, Vicky Goodman, Senior Licensing Officer.
Henry Biddington, Environmental Health and Licensing Manager.
Thank you all very much. Apologies for absence. Olivia, do we have any apologies for absence?
No, Chair.
Thank you. Disclosures of interest. Do any committee members have any disclosures? Councillor Shenton?
Chair, Mr and Mrs Westmacart are known to me, but I come here with an open mind today. So I feel I'm okay to carry on.
Thank you, Councillor. So,
sorry, could somebody being known to somebody can cover a whole range of circumstances. Would it be possible just to cast some light on that, please?
Yeah, sure. I wondered whether you might ask that because obviously I know you as well, Mr Craig, and you live in Henley, as do the Westmacarts, and I walk my dog in Henley, so I know a lot of residents in Henley. Indeed, the ward member sitting behind you, I know him. That's the only reason that I made a declaration, other than the fact that I do know a lot of people in Henley because it is part of my division in the county. So,
thank you. So, we've just been presented, the panel has just been presented with some additional papers this morning that do significantly change the nature of the application. As we haven't had a chance to read these papers yet, I'm going to suggest a 10-minute adjournment to allow us to read those papers. So apologies for this, but I think it's important that we have time to just read these. Thank you very much.
Yes, if I could just provide a little context to that. Obviously, first of all, when I got the representation from Councillor Rice, I did email him straight away, but he was going away on holiday that day, and we just didn't get the chance to meet till last Thursday. And that's obviously Jan Ray in your licensing section was off on Thursday as well, so it just was not possible to convey this modification to you before it was sent yesterday. So I'm just apologising for that.
The Easter holiday, Easter long weekend shouldn't come as any surprise to any of us, I don't think. So we will take a 10-minute adjournment to look at these papers now. Thank you very much.
I've actually left my client, and he's just in the middle of a conversation that I've been involved in. Didn't want to leave you sat here with, I suppose it would be fair to say, the principal objectors. I understood the conversation, the correspondence that I'd had with the Councillor Rice, I understood had been sent to these residents, and apparently that hasn't happened. Okay. So we've had that conversation now, and let me get my laptop out if I may. So the last email that I sent to licensing, we'd modified the application to 7 events per year, not via temporary event notices in the garden. We have agreed with the representatives who are here, namely Eliza, Brian and Sue Westmacott, to reduce that to 6. Just let me take instructions on this.
I think, Mr. Craig, before you take further instruction,
Yes.
I think I'd like to make a few comments. Having looked at the papers and having had our adjournment, the revisions, all members of the panel feel the revisions are very significant. All members of the public need to have seen these revisions, not just the 2 members of the public here today. And it's important, we feel, that all parties are consulted on these new proposals. The panel needs to come to a properly informed and fair decision, ensuring that we've taken into account all views of all the representatives, and based on all the evidence after proper consultation with all parties. Therefore, I propose that this application be adjourned pursuant to Regulation 12 of the Hearings Regulation 2005 to allow local residents and statutory consultees to comment on the new documents submitted.
Okay, is that a determination, or are you inviting the comments?
That's a determination.
Very well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And just to say, I apologise for people, members of the public particularly, who have taken the trouble to come here today. It is important that the panel receives all papers in good time. Papers were sent out I've been reassured that all papers and agendas were sent out in good time, taking into account the Easter bank holiday. And ward members are given 28 days notice of these papers. So I think we just really need to emphasise that these panels must have all papers in good time to be able to come to proper, informed, fair decisions. Thank you very much. Do you have any urgent business? Oh, we'll do the other application first. Right. Thank you very much. We're just going to take a brief 10-minute adjournment before we hear the second application. Thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone. So we'll move on to the application for a new premises licence for 10 Warwick Road, Wellesbourne. Henry, would you like to present? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, all. So in summary, this is a panel to determine the application for a new premises licence for a shop to sell alcohol for consumption off premises, following the objection relevant to one or more of the licensing objectives. So in background, the premises will be known as EM10 Express and is located at 10 Warwick Road. Proposed premises are next to offices and Indian restaurant as indicated in Appendix 1. Street view map and has previously been used as a shop. Premises are currently vacant and wish to trade as a store offering a range of convenience goods, including fresh produce and a range of alcohol. The application currently before the licensing panel for determination seeks to allow the sale of alcohol for consumption off premises every day from 6 o'clock until 2300 hours. A copy of the application is at Appendix 2. Supplementary evidence was submitted and provided to the panel last week, so you should have received that as well from the applicant. There has been one representation from a resident who lives adjacent to the premises. The representation outlines concerns around noise and intoxicated persons when leaving the nearby public house via the shop, public nuisance, litter and parking. The representation can be seen in Appendix 3. The objector is unable to attend the licensing panel today, so will not be speaking, but it's all in Appendix 3. So, in summary, options for the licensing panel essentially is to either to grant the premises licence subject to the conditions stated in the operating schedule, or to refuse to grant the premises licence. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Very brief. Thank you very much. We have 3 speakers, I believe, which I'm quite happy at my discretion to allow 3. Do we have, is it Professor Roy Light? Are you speaking first? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I understand you received some information from Mr. Baker last week. There was a hearing note which I've written to assist for this morning. A photograph of the road where the premises are, and a manual which Mr. Baker has got copies of here. It's a very large document, the training manual, which is why it wasn't emailed, because that would take forever. We're not intending to submit that in evidence. You'll be very pleased to hear that you might get home sometime today. So there's that, and then there's a case of Thwaites, as I'm sure you've had put to you before, so you're familiar with that in any event. So the hearing note, if I may go to that, the applicant is Ruben. He sits here. He has, as it says, their extensive experience with the sale of alcohol. He had his first personal licence around 2012-13, and he's been a DPS since 2013, first as a staff member, then afterwards in his own store, and he now has 2 stores which are up and running, and this is his 3rd store, which he's hoping to get his licence for today. He bought the premises in February. They'd been empty for about 6 months. I'm not sure whether you and your colleagues are familiar with the area or not. Thank you for that. He's investing some £100,000 in providing a nice modern convenience store which will serve the local community and those around the area. Now, as far as the representations are concerned, there aren't any from responsible authorities, and as you know, you and your colleagues, Chair, all responsible authorities would have been informed, and representations are made by none of them. And if an RA doesn't make a representation, it's reasonable to assume that they're content with the application, otherwise they would have done so. The Section 182 guidance underlines the weight to be given to representations. I'll read that out, if I may, just for the record. Each responsible authority will be an expert in their respective field, and in some cases it's likely that a particular responsible authority will be the licensing authority's main source of advice in relation to a particular licensing objective. For example, the police have a key role in managing the nighttime economy and should have good working relationships with those operating in their local area. The police should usually therefore be the licensing authority's main source of advice on matters related to the promotion of crime and disorder. There are no representations from the police and significantly nor from environmental health, and that's your main source of advice as far as the public nuisance licensing objectives. We've got one representation from a local person who lives next door, Mrs. Pearson. She raises 5 concerns: antisocial behaviour, noise, litter, need and parking. Need is not a criterion anymore. It used to be years ago, but it isn't now. And parking isn't a licensing consideration either. But the other 3 are antisocial behaviour, noise, litter. So we do need to address those. It's a mixed commercial and residential area. We have a photograph at page 100 in your agenda, which shows the road from where the person making the representation lives down towards the store. And we also have one further on down the road, which Mr. Baker sent in to you, which is this one, and that shows that there's next door to the proposed short site is the restaurant, and then beyond the restaurant there are offices, estate agents, and nail bar hairdressers, and then beyond that there's a public house which can just be seen at the bottom on the left, and opposite that there's a Shell filling station which can be seen on the right, and that has a license to sell alcohol too. So it's fair to say that most of the commercial premises down that road aren't open late at night. They're daytime places. The restaurant next door is open until I think 11 p.m. The pub has a late license. I'm not sure whether they operate it till the extent of their late license. And opposite the petrol station also has a license to sell alcohol. Mrs. Pearson raises concerns over noise from the restaurant and from the public house. Of course, that's not related to these premises at all, and we're going to have a different clientele. People, if they go to the restaurant, may have a drink with their meal, and people who go to the public house will obviously have a drink or may have a drink within the public house. This isn't that sort of establishment. They're not going to have people coming out who've been drinking. We're going to have people coming out who may have bought some alcohol to take elsewhere to drink. And also, there's a fully conditioned assessment, and I've taken those words from your licensing policy. We say it will not be disproportionate and unreasonable or markedly reduce the amenity value of the area to local people. In fact, we think it will probably increase the amenity to local people because they'll have a very nice local store that they can use. Now, the conditions, we do have the conditions, which we'll come on to in a moment. In any event, it has to be shown that the sale of alcohol, rather than the existence of the shop, will undermine one or more of the licensing objectives. And there's simply no evidence to support that. The representation for the person next door seems more concerned about a shop closing at 11 because people will be coming in and out of the shop. But whether they have a license or not, people will be coming in and out of the shop. So we have to decide on the balance of probabilities that they'll make more noise coming out of the shop carrying a bottle of wine, and they'll make coming out of the shop carrying a loaf of bread, and I can't see any evidence for that. And as the statutory guidance in your policy state, shops, stores and supermarkets should normally be free to provide sales of alcohol for consumption off the premises at any times when the retail outlet is open for shopping, unless there are good reasons based on the licensing objectives restricting those hours. So the license hours applied for match the opening hours of the shop. As well as the mandatory conditions, the premises will operate a comprehensive suite of conditions to ensure responsible retailing. These are on page 116 of the agenda. If we may turn to that, please. And you'll be very familiar with these sorts of conditions which you'll see on licence applications to underline responsible retailing. The first condition talks about CCTV and meeting the requirements, minimum requirements of the Stratford-on-Avon police licensing team. All entry and exit points will be covered. And interestingly, there's also a CCTV camera outside the premises. So any concerns a neighbour may have about people hanging around outside, there's CCTV cameras there to cover that in any event. They'll continue to record when they're open for licensable activities, and during time customers remain on the premises. All recordings should be stored for a minimum period of 31 days with date and time stamping. Viewing recordings should be made available as soon as practicable upon the reasonable request of police or authorised officers throughout that 31-day period. Then the spirits, as usual, behind the counter and not self-service. A record kept detailing all refused sales of alcohol. It'll include the date and time of the refused sale, the name of the member of staff who refused the sale. The record, again, should be available for inspection at at the premises by the police or an authorised officer of the district council at all times when the present premises is open. All tills shall have an automatic prompt to say if it's an age-related product, ask for age verification and identification, and there'll be a Challenge 25 proof of age scheme operated with only those acceptable forms of ID possible. And again, hopefully this will reassure the neighbour to some extent. Notices should be prominently displayed at all exits requesting patrons to respect the needs of local residents and businesses and leave the area quietly. And then number 8 is also one which would address the litter concerns. The external shop front will be swept daily, so they'll make sure it's all kept clean outside. Then number 7, the premises licence holder should ensure all staff employed at the premises whose duties include the sale of or supply of alcohol should undertake and complete the relevant programme of internal training prior to them being authorised to sell or supply alcohol. The premises licence guidance manual will be the basis of alcohol sales training. Records of the training programme should be maintained and made available to authorised officers on reasonable request. Now, Mr. Baker is the person who's been responsible for that. And I hope you won't mind me saying that I think it was Camberley Licensing Committee who last week complimented him on the contents and his presentation. He's there to answer any questions on the training if you wish to have any, or to take you through the training manual, but I warn you it could take some time. He's there if you would like to ask him any questions. Finally, the committee will be familiar with the case of Thwaites. Excuse me. And you may remember that in the case of Thwaites, it was a pub stroke hotel which wanted to stay open half an hour later. And the local residents came along to the licensing committee and said, look, if this place stays open half an hour later than the other pubs in the area, people are going to migrate from those other pubs to this pub. And if they're migrating at closing time, they're going to be drinking. And if they've been drinking, they're going to be making a noise. And if they're migrating, drinking and making a noise, they're going to disturb residents on their way there. The licensing committee said, we can understand those are valid concerns, but there's no evidence, they're just speculation, and they granted the extension of the license. The local residents weren't happy with that decision, so they appealed to the magistrates' court. And the magistrates' court said, we think the licensing committee got it wrong. It's just common sense, isn't it, that if people migrated, they would cause problems and all the rest of it, and they overruled, the magistrates overruled the licensing committee's decision. The pub hotel then appealed to the High Court, and the High Court said no, the licensing committee got it right. It was the magistrates that got it wrong. And the case of Thwaites, which has been sent to you, at paragraph 63, the High Court judge said this. However, in my view, their approach, the magistrates' approach to what was necessary, was coloured by a failure to take proper account of the changed approach to licensing introduced by the Act. Had they had proper regard to the Act and the guidance, they would have approached the matter with a greater reluctance to impose regulations and would have looked for real evidence that it was required in the circumstances of the case. Their conclusion that it was so required on the basis of a risk of migration from other premises in the vicinity was not one to which a properly directed bench could have come. The fact that the police did not oppose the hours sought on this basis should have weighed very heavily with them, whereas in fact they appeared to have dismissed the police view because they didn't agree with their own. So that's supportive of there needing to be some proper evidence in order to make a decision. So the final paragraph, while Mrs. Pearson's concerns are no doubt genuinely held, there are no representations from the responsible authorities and no evidence to suggest the sales of alcohol will undermine any of the licensing objectives, and we respectfully request that you grant the licence as applied for. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. My apologies. I should have asked members of the panel before I went on to you if they had wanted any further clarification from Henry Biddington. I'm sorry I didn't do that.
It's a very quick one, and you've already mentioned this, but just to confirm, we haven't had any kind of representation from the police at all, have we?
Yeah, that's correct. There's no representation from police or any of the other responsible authorities.
Thank you very much. Mr. Baker, do you have anything? That was an extremely comprehensive and very helpful summary. Thank you very much. Mr. Baker, do you have anything to add?
No, I'm just here to help with any questions that may be posed regarding the manual or anything else in connection with the application. And Ruben also in the same position.
Ruben, do you have anything to add, or should... Fine. Thank you very much. Well, that was very, very eloquent, as one would expect. Thank you so much. Members of the panel, do we have any questions for our three? Well, I think as we have no further questions, not that we aren't interested in questions, but I think you've covered everything extremely clearly for us, which is very, very helpful. It's not always as succinct or clear as, as that from some presenters. So I suggest that we will consider this, and Nish will send notice within 5 days of our decision, is it? So you'll have notice within 5 working days of our decision. But thank you for your patience and time this morning.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you.
Our colleagues.
So, Olivia, do we have any urgent business? We have no urgent business. I therefore close the meeting. Thank you all very much indeed.